So I may have overused my 3D printed parts. This has gotten a little bad. You ready? Watch this. Yeah, I think it's time for a rebuild. Yeah, that whole section is going to be rebuilt. I think the Z-axis is good, but this piece is shot. You can see it's hits bow and it's cracked. It's about to fall apart. In fact, I'm surprised it didn't fall apart while I did all that. So I think I'm going to remake this piece. But I think this 3D printed part I'm going to make out of aluminum instead of, or steel. Aluminum or steel. Probably aluminum. It'd be lighter. I don't know, it's not that big of a piece. We'll see. I do have an issue with some flex in the whole back of it too. Oh, I'm not pointing at it. Some flex in the whole back of it too. But I don't think that's a 3D printed part. As you can see, the pole is actually flexing. I don't know if you can see that in this video, but the pole's actually flexing just as much. So some rework definitely to be done here. I think if I make it out of aluminum, I'd love to remake all of these plastic parts out of aluminum because, you know, moisture and PLA, not a good fit. And, well, you can see the moisture is just evaporated out. It's been about a month since I've used this. Maybe a little more than a month. I don't know. No, it hasn't been that much more than a month. But yeah, it's last time I used it was on these. Was it on these fish? I think it was these fish I was making. I'm just doing a bunch of. I've showed a picture of these before. I made a bunch of these though, where I use the fish metal pieces, you know, and then I do a background. So I'll shine the front up. And then I'll paint the background black, and it kind of gives it a cool look. I got a couple pictures of those. There's all the backgrounds. Oh, and this is the piece of steel I was going to try and use to cut. I mean, it's the right thickness. To cut, oh, nice. To cut this out of, I mean, it's the same thickness. This is the same thickness as this plastic piece, or maybe just a hair thicker. But I think I can make it work. But then I got to picking this up, and man, that's a heavy piece of steel. So I don't know that steel's the right thing. It may end up being aluminum. On top of that, I've got a second problem, which is the actual reason I had to stop cutting. But it's good that I did, because I think everything would have just kind of finally fallen off here if I hadn't. The plasma cutter, which is loose right now. The plasma cutter won't fire anymore. I don't know if it's because I didn't, you know, keep my trigger dry or wrapped, and probably should have, but it just won't. It's still, the trigger works. It turns on and off the air, but I don't get any torch or plasma or whatever. I don't know what you're calling it. High frequency start or low frequency start or whatever it is. I don't get any of that torch coming out the end of here, and I've changed all my pieces, my consumables. I've swapped them out for new ones, and it's sporadic. It still fires a little here and there, but just not very often. But the air comes on and off every time I push the switch. So the switch is still good in the sense that the air comes on and off, but something's bad. So it could be all the way back into the plasma cutter where something's wrong. I don't think it would have anything to do with the relay that I put in the machine. I thought about that for a little bit. But if that were the case, then this switch should override that. So I took the relay plug off the back of it and tried using just the switch to cut, like I would like it would come, you just use it. And that didn't work either. I unscrewed everything over here, screwed it all back in and tried again. Still wasn't working. I don't think you need a ground to get that high frequency start to kick in. Anyways, so something's up with the plasma cutter. I don't know if it's just moisture in the handle ruined something. I don't know what the problem is there. So I've got to dive into all that, take that apart. Hopefully it's not something in the actual plasma cutter. If it is, I gotta get a new plasma cutter because I don't know how to work on a plasma cutter. If anybody does know what to look for, let me know. But more importantly, can't use it anymore until I... Oh shit. Yeah, like I said, it's ready to go. It actually just popped off. So I didn't know it was that bad, but it just slides right off. It literally was hanging on there the last time I used it. So I don't want to take it off all the way because the belts are still on it. So I'd have to get the belts free before I took it off, or I might tear my belt. So I don't want to tear my belt. Belt's still in great shape. Yeah, there it's back on. But I do need to completely disassemble that part. Well, in taking it off of here, undoing the belt and removing it, it didn't last but a half a second after the removal. This 3D piece right here and right there where it would, you know, connect into. Ooh, sorry, dropped my phone almost. Just kind of came right apart. So, and you can see that there's actually a second fracture right there. And the beginning of a third fracture right there where the bolts go through there and where the bolts come in right here. So yeah, this piece, yeah, you can see it's still right. It's ready to fracture down here too. Everything else where everything sat inside of it is holding up really well. I mean, I'm kind of shocked at how even this whole top piece is really solid and holding really well. It was just the, you can see I didn't do a what do they call it, 100% fill. I did a probably 90 or 80% fill. So I only had the 4 outer layers on this, you know, all the way around it. Oops. 4 outer layers to hold the whole thing together. And you can even see on the top where it broke off here, or on the side where it broke off here, you know, there wasn't much holding it together. So I think if I were to re-3D print it, I'd 3D print it with 100% fill. I'm sure the same thing's going on here where it's starting to crack. It's just the outer 4 layers. And I could have swore I saw another crack down here. But I don't see it now. Maybe it's just bad lighting, but... Yeah, no, I don't see it now. Maybe there wasn't a crack down there. Maybe I was wrong about that. But yeah, the upper part is starting to crack there. So just up here it's starting to... I'm sorry, up here it's starting to crack a little bit. I thought I saw one down here, but it could have just been... Yeah, I don't see anything down here now. It seems pretty sturdy down here. But anyways, got to redo it anyway. So with those 2 bolts coming through there, and the tension all being right across that line there, that's where that is starting to crack right there. Is it starting to crack down there? Yeah. Maybe a crack right there too. Sorry. Crack right there too. Coming in there, which, you know, whatever. It's going to be that part's going to get redone. These 3D printed parts, they are lasting really well. I've had this over a year and not quite a year and a half, but over a year for sure. And I've used the hell out of this thing. And for a 3D printed part to last that long, I mean, I don't know how many cuts I've made, but I've made a ton. For a 3D printed part to last that long in a water, cold, hot, cold, because we're in my garage. Yeah, it gets cold out here. And this is my grinding area. This is my welding area. Everything gets in here. This thing gets nasty. For this 3D printed parts to last this long, I'm shocked. I never believed it would last this long from the beginning. So it's impressive how long it's last. Look at that. It's, the threads are just loose. They just probably need to be tightened up there. So I don't know. And I don't remember why I had to change my spacing in here with washers to get it off for some reason. I don't remember why, but I might look at that a little bit too and see if I can modify why I had to do that, because that may be another reason why it failed, because it was sticking out so far. So I gotta check and see why I did that. I did it for a reason, and I don't remember if it was because I had the wrong size tube or something. There was a reason why I had to change and put all these extra washers on here. But I don't remember. So again, I gotta go back and look at that. I did that all when I did the extra piece here. I did something different than the original plans called for, and I don't remember what I did different. But because I did something different, I had to modify and put all the extra washers in here. I'll have to figure that out. It's been a while since I built this thing, like I said. Anyways, I'll update you once I get it back together and once I figure out what's going on with the whole plasma cutter. Hope I don't have to buy a new one. That wasn't cheap. Well, attempt 1 failed. Bad settings on the printer. Attempt 2 was going really well. Yeah, I shouldn't say really well. It was going okay. Even my end grain was really good. It was solid. But yeah, I ran out of filament as it was printing. But I did notice that the ends were starting to pop up on the corners. It may not be visible in the camera, but my corners started to pop up and lift off the table a little bit. Off the platform, I should say. Which squished these holes. Nothing I couldn't drill out, but it just shouldn't happen. And my infill was a little off. And I noticed that I don't really need this infill anymore because I'm not using the aluminum rod through here anymore. I'm using it through here. So I went ahead and modified and got rid of that. And I've added some tabs on the corners here that stick out that will help hold it down. And I took this rounded edge and I made it a perfect 90 because I don't think it needs to be rounded anymore. It was rounded in the original, obviously, but for some reason that was causing me problems. So, and the printer's not been acting the best these days, so we're starting over that. Oh, and here's the previous, it's not a very good picture, previous infill. Man, camera cannot capture that on the black at all. Previous infill compared to the new infill. So hopefully we get a little better. Oh yeah, if we turn it like that I can see it. Let's see if that works on the black. A little bit. But you can see it was really just the outline holding it together on this one. So we'll see if this improves it. So, thought I had it figured out now. Got a full spool of filament on there. Started a new one, and it was doing pretty good. I put these little tabs on here to keep it from peeling up from the bed, which I'll just cut off once it's done. They're very thin tabs. And it was doing great until I realized that when I printed this the first time, I had blown it up to 103%. And I forgot to do that on the second one. So I had to go back in and start a fourth time. And the reason I did that is because this one was originally printed. Well, I took some calipers and measured it and got my measurements, and 103% of the original file is what I printed everything at, just because of shrinkage. It just worked out better that way because the plastic tends to shrink a little bit. 103% is what I printed it at, and I was doing it good on this one. But I didn't do it on this one, so I had to go and start over one more time. And this is the fourth time's a charm, I guess. We'll see. Not done yet. Alright. We actually have completed it. I cut off the extra tabs that I had put on there, which worked out really well. They snipped right off. Held it nice and flat. No curvature on the bottom. It is actually pretty solid. I've been trying to bend it and it will not bend. And I ran a square on here, and it is actually exact, right on square. So that's good. It's hard to do on a 3D printer to get one that's square. Sometimes the prints go, well, I guess if you print it this way it would be fine. Hadn't thought of that. I should have tried to print it that way maybe. But it turned out square anyway. When I printed it, I don't remember if I printed it that way or that way. I think I printed it that way, actually. But yeah, it turned out really nice and very solid. I think for this one I'm just going to put, because there's my blue tape from the bed. So I printed it that way. I'm going to put it back on, replace these broken parts right now, because I got the plasma cutter trigger working, and I just want to put this back all together, get back to where I can run it again, and then I'll start working on, building that one I talked about out of aluminum. So for today, just going to put it back together. Alright, let's get started tearing this thing apart, the broken one, and trying to reconfigure it on the new one here. I don't think I'm going to modify any of this up here right now. It was working perfectly, so I don't need to really adjust that. I just need to get the part replaced that was broken here. So I'm just going to take this and put the pieces back into it that belong on it. Hook it back up to the plasma cutter and see where we go. And I'll show you what I did to fix the plasma cutter. It was really stupid on my part. I just used incorrect consumables, and I'll show you what that was just in case you ever run into the same thing. It had been a while since I put this together, but I realized that this bolt here that goes through and into this piece was actually threaded, so I gotta go find my tap to do that. But before I do that, I'm gonna take this apart right here, and then this was also tapped on the bottom down here, going up in, I believe. It was actually tapped up in this top part, I'm sorry, to hold the bearing in there. So I gotta get my taps and find out which ones those exactly were, and I'll have to bring up JD's Garage documentation to find out so I get that correct. Well, I thought I was just going to be able to take the back of this off and then put the new one on. Maybe I still can. I didn't realize these bolts are kind of set in between this plate and this. They land right on this pipe, this bar, ground stock, so they can't actually come out. This can go down. I just need to adjust my motor a little bit to bring it down, obviously, but they can't come out, which maybe that's not a bad thing, but it made it really hard to unscrew them. I had to use a box wrench, and just little by little. Made it harder to get them back in than it was to get them out. Maybe I don't need to much. I need to tap this now and get it right. So let me get that tap down. Oh, and let me show you. I wanted to show you this before I started the video up here. I'll keep flowing. Things all greasy. Here is the second brake that did not break yet, but was about to. You can see it going all the way across there. And it didn't really get around to the other side. But let me see if I can demonstrate. I can really demonstrate that way. I don't know if you guys can see this. Let me get out in a little more light here. Just by pressing on it, it was about to go. You can see that. Now, slight difference. So this is this side, which would be like this right here. This is where this was. So those holes are right there, right? But you notice anything different? Yeah, I didn't print that piece there. It grooved. So this is a solid square now. There's no groove down the center because we've moved that to the front of this thing now, the bar, to the front of the Z automatic adjuster. I don't know what they call this piece. The Z height thing control. So now this has a little bit more meat to it, where that was kind of thin in the little. And as mentioned before, which I was, had not 100% fill. See if I can get a little better light on that. Yeah, it's just horrible for my phone to try and pick up. It's close to 100%, it really is, but it wasn't 100%. But in the same respect, it also has a little more meat to it here. But that is where it cracked, right across there. The second crack, obviously. The first crack was up top here. The main one, the one that gave away. But that could have had a part in it too, so I don't know. Anyways, got to tap these holes now. Be back in a minute. I don't know that I showed this before, but where these set screws go in, man, that's horrible. Maybe a little light will help. There was there it is. Okay, there was a crack on this side, not on this side. So I don't know when that happened. It never really changed. You can see that the depth of it didn't change too much. So I don't think it was a real issue, but that had cracked at one point as well. Just wanted to point it out. Okay, I've gotten pretty far. I do have a small problem. I know what I have left to do. And it's these adjusters here. These two go on the top and these two go on the bottom, and that's what lets it ride on the bar. So I got to put them on, 2 of them ahead of time, and 2 of them got to be really loose so I can slide it over the bar and then tighten them up. So that's not a problem because they go here and here, and you know how that works. And then I got to use the adjusters I put in the bottom here and then the top here to adjust those tightnesses. And these 4 washers go, and these 4, I guess these 8 washers go where I had said I had, you know, the extra washers in here. I gotta look at the picture. I think it was 4 on each one. But if it was 4 on each one, where did these 2 washers come from? I don't know where those 2 washers came from. I gotta check it. Maybe it was 5 on each one, but those are not the same size as those, are they? No, they're not. So where did these 2 washers come from? I don't know. I hate when I end up with extra stuff because it just drives me mad. These are, there were no washers on here. That was what held my added part that I made for the wires to run through the adjustable cable. I don't know. Oh, you know what? No, they didn't go on there, I don't think, because there'd be 2 there and then there'd be 2 up here. They didn't go here on the other side of this, did they? Is that what it is? Do they go in there? There's 2 washers in there holding that there. But was there another washer below that keeping it from bottoming out? I don't know. I just don't know where these 2 washers came from. They couldn't go in here anywhere. What are these 2 holes? Oh, these 2 holes are for the bolts on there. So that was where I had the 4 washers. And this is for the adjuster with the, you know, set screws in here. These are for the adjusters here. And the other adjusters could keep these holes down to there with the set screws in here and in here. I don't know where these 2 washers go, and it's really frustrating me because I know I'm going to take the whole thing back apart if I get it wrong. No, that's not either. Alright, well, I'm going to put it together. And if these 2 washers are needed, I'm going to be mad. But I'm going to look through all my videos first and see where I can find where it was. Alright, I figured it out. The washers that I didn't know where they went, they go right here. And why there's only 2 and not 4 for the top half is because these 2 are already on a metal plate. So that's where they go. And the reason I figured it out is because I went back and looked at everything I could find and I couldn't find it. But if you look right here, this is the same piece. Look at this right here. The indentation of the washers. I must have pressed them in so hard they made indentations. At least I did something right. Alright, so that's where they go. Feel much better about that. Now I gotta go put it on the machine and adjust it. But before I do that, I gotta drill these out. I haven't drilled these out to fit the size bolt they go into, and they need to just be free through that because the bolt, wait, no, they gotta be threaded. I gotta find out what thread that is and thread these. Ooh, that was close. Okay, bye. Okay, it's on. I had to take the belt tensioner off because I couldn't slide it on, and I couldn't get it on without taking the things all the way out. So obviously now it's just, you know, you gotta adjust it so that it's tight, which is not even close to tight right now. You can see it's all over the place. So now I'll adjust those tensioners that we put in here, here, and here, and we'll adjust those until it's nice and snug. And then we can run our belt back through here, tensioner on, and it'll be done. Well, gotta hook up all the wires and everything back on. But we're getting close. And as I mentioned, the plasma cutter is now working. So that's a huge plus. And I didn't record how I fixed that, but I'll record that once I get all this back together so that I have that for you. All right, it's all back together, but I gotta hook up my motor wires, which I gotta find the video where I took a picture of which one went to which, and my, oh, well, I gotta put the front on still. Shit, thought I was done. All right, we put the front on first. Bye. Okay, now the Z-axis is back on. I couldn't get in here and do these bolts because there's literally a gap here, and if you raise the Z-axis all the way up, this is in front of it, and if you lower it all the way down, this is in front of it. So there's a little gap right here where you could potentially work a wrench up and down, but it wasn't going to happen. So I had to take the 4 bolts off the Z-axis plate and then take the plate off, then bolt that on, and then bolt the plate back on. I don't like doing that because every time you undo and redo a thread on a 3D printed part, it makes it weaker. That's why I was trying to avoid it. But it wasn't a big deal. It went pretty smooth. All I have left to do I've got my motor reattached and my Z-axis switch reattached. I had to take a picture so I didn't accidentally do the wrong one. Open or, and it's like I always open or always close. I don't know. Anyways, all I have left to do is this, and I gotta find that picture because I don't remember. And stepper motors are a nightmare if you don't. I mean, they're supposedly really simple, but I can never get them right. There's like 4x4 combinations, like 16 or something combinations that you could, if you get it wrong, it drives me crazy. So hopefully I can find that picture, replug those in. I will say that before I even do that, because it's undone right now, I can do this. That's pretty tight. I mean, that's pretty tight. I may need to loosen, I don't know what, something. So that's pretty tight. But we're going to see, and that's not as tight as I would have liked it to have been. But, you know, it's the best I could do for what I had. So this should be like a twing, 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 but just flip, 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 flip. So, especially if I go all the way to the end, then it's really loose looking. I feel like that's too loose, but I don't know. We'll see. All right, let's get this together, fire it up, turn on everything, and see if it runs. Then we'll hook back up the torch with the new consumables and get it in there and see if it cuts. Get ourselves back to a working state. Okay, before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about where I made my mistake with the plasma cutter, thinking it was broken because the trigger wouldn't fire when I was pulling the trigger. Air would still go, but I wouldn't get the torch going. The pilot start wouldn't start. So what I had done was I went out and purchased new electrodes and new caps. I don't know what they're called, I'm sorry. But I went out and purchased new, and when I did, I thought, oh great, this will work, because somebody's tested it before and they told me they tested it, and it does work. But where I failed was this electrode and this electrode are different, as are the caps are different. And I switched the cap and kept using my old electrodes because I had extras of these, so I kept using them. And you can see how it's a straight cylinder coming out of the thread. The walls are straight, but on the new one, the wall is curved outward. So when using the old cap, which is a little shorter, stand up on end, with the old electrode, right, yeah, it's the old one, because I tried to sand it down a little bit. It goes in about that far. About to lose battery, so I'm going to be quick. Using the new electrode, I said I was going to be quick, and here I'm dropping everything out. Using the new electrode with the old cap, not going to work, is it? Man, trying to do this with the camera in your hand. It leaves that much of a gap, which was just a hair difference, but it doesn't have anywhere to slide up and down in there. But with the new cap, man, trying to do this through the front, I gotta look at the electrodes and stuff and stop looking at the camera. You can't stand this one on end, really. There it goes. New electrode, new cap. It fits. So, anyways, that being said, that's where I had the problem. I used an old electrode, new cap, versus switching both pieces, and then I got it to work. So we're going to see if it does work, because the machine just got booted up, and I'm going to try it. But I got to charge my battery. Alright, so it is working. Had a couple glitches, but I think that was just my ground was bad, but I got that fixed. I don't get perfect, I got it worked out. I think I'm going to show you a cut here. But I don't understand why I get non-perfect circles. I get more of a lemon on a perfect circle. So I'm sure it's something with the either the tensioning or something along those lines. Could also be that this computer is really slow. I used an old computer. It's really slow. I'll show you how slow it is. I'm gonna go ahead and start this up. Put my safety glasses on. And hold on, I'm gonna flip the camera over maybe. That wouldn't help. But that's gonna make for a horrible video if I try to do it. But let me just do it like this. Okay, so I gotta set my zeros. And then I'm gonna hit run. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, run. Oh, now it behaved. Usually I hit run and I gotta wait like 30 seconds. This is not gonna work on my camera probably, but we'll see. So, it's not the worst. I mean, it's a circle, but there's like a point over here, and a point out here. So it's kind of like a limit. This one looks a little, you can see it better on some of these, like the point right there where it goes out and then back around. It cuts and pierces, which is the pierce that's normal. It goes out and then back around and then back down. At this point and at this point, it always gives me those two little dots. I don't know what that's about, but it's working again. I haven't tried cutting anything big because I don't have any water in here, and it blows a lot of smoke all over. Just dropped you guys. So I don't know if I even have anything big to run. Let's see, open, and yeah, I hit run, but nothing's happened yet. I mean, I know it's a big file, but really, here we go. Okay, this is gonna bump all over the place because this is not, this metal's thing. All right, I don't know if you could hear me talking through most of that, but we had a, you know, obviously we had an issue with it. Z height went right through the metal and pushed right through it, so that messed up the fish. But and it wasn't going right anyway, but it started to, which is good. So now we can get some real metal in here and start doing some real tests again and get our settings all correct and have ourselves a working model again. Everything's moving Z, X, Y. I got this little issue I talked about over here with the circle's not perfect. I don't know exactly what that is, but at least it is working again. That's a plus. I think I'm going to end the video here and probably call it a night. It's got a new yellow piece here to add to my red, white, and black pieces. Just every 3D printed color you can think of. So, JDGarage Plasma Cutter, back in shape, working again. A little slow, a little fidgety, but we'll get it fixed up.